into the living room where we would have a little bit more space. And as I lifted the box up popped a monocle cobra. So I set that down quickly. He came out and said that there's a lot of things in here you need to see. When we went in the room, he was showing these various snakes, pointing out this one's very deadly, that one's very deadly. And it was just a little creepy to see all these slippery things everywhere.
As they began to clear the house, they found a remarkable collection. Amongst them was a western diamondback rattlesnake, one of the deadliest in the world, 2 Urutu pit vipers, 2 rhinoceros vipers, a gaboon viper, 6 lizards, and 2 caiman alligators. But the question still remains: who was Alexandria Hall? And what drove her to amass this deadly collection? Fellow reptile fanatic Winston Card recognized something familiar in her.
You tend to get interested in reptiles because they're different. And it has a lot to do with your ego. It has more to do with ego than it does necessarily your intrinsic interest in the animals. That comes later. And then you tend to get obsessed with it. And she appeared to be on that path.
But it wasn't until reports of her death appeared in the local papers that details of who she was emerged.
I read an article in a paper about an unnamed woman who had been bitten by a venomous snake, and she had had 10 snakes and all these other animals, and I thought, I said to my wife, this looks like something my ex-wife would do.
Dan Hall had been married to Alexandria for 6 years. They divorced in 1990, long before she began collecting reptiles.
She was pretty obsessive compulsive with everything she did. She wanted a cat. And so, okay, we got her a cat, and by the time the marriage was over, we had 10 cats in the house. She decided she was going to get into bodybuilding. Well, next thing you know, the spare room's a gym. She wanted a tattoo. Next thing you know, she had 10 tattoos. No matter what she collected, it could have been anything. She would have moved on to something else and still not been happy.
Well, current research has certainly shown that there is a high prevalence of obsessive-compulsive disorder in most animal hoarding cases, or in a high prevalence of them. A high proportion of usually women are often living alone and single at this point in life where what they call adult onset animal hoarding comes on.
I can understand the mindset. I can't understand the recklessness of just allowing stuff to wander around. I think some of the fascination with the venomous stuff with people is that people want to have power over that which can kill them.
Yeah, well, that's why she wanted the guns. She wanted the danger of owning the guns. You know, the problem with that, though, is she bought all these weapons and had never fired a weapon in her entire life, yet she felt this power from owning them, even though she knew nothing about them. She was this little sheltered girl from some Midwestern town in Indiana who never made it out on her own until she was 23. She just wanted to get away from it all and break out and make a name for herself somehow. I guess she has.
The snake that killed Alexandria Hall is on display in Cincinnati Zoo, and one of her pet cobras is now owned by Jim Harrison, being used to produce anti-venom to help prevent another such tragedy.
You know, somebody will call me up and they'll say, am I in over my head? Well, if you ask me if you're in over your head, you're in over your head. That's just a fact. You know, I don't have to really even explain that to them. I just tell them, you know, if you're asking me that question, then you know you're in over your head.
But how did people like Alexandria Hall and Ronald Huff acquire pets that are so dangerous?